Hello, welcome to the Inside the Birds NFL Divisional Round Preview. I'm Geoff Mosher. A lot of people think the NFL Divisional Round is the best sports weekend of the year, or right up there with Final Four weekend, or first round of the NCAA tournament weekend, opening weekend in the Major League Baseball season. I am in agreement with the divisional round weekend being the most exciting weekend, especially of NFL football. Opening weekend's always fun for the NFL as well, especially Eagles played Friday. So you had Thursday, Friday, you had Sunday, you had Monday. But when it comes to just all on the line, great football games, and you're planted in front of your TV on Saturday and Sunday, and you got your drinks, your snacks, your chips. I mean, it's not the Super Bowl because you get 3 billion casuals watching the Super Bowl and parties and blocks, but the divisional round weekend is for the true football junkie. The true NFL junkie loves divisional round weekend because you get 4 games, and they're usually going to be 4 pretty compelling games. Once you get to the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship the following weekend, you only get 2 games, and one of them always tends to be a little lopsided. I mean, I'm sure there have been years where they're both 2 great games, but there have also been years, like a couple of years ago, the Eagles played the 49ers, and it was really not that close. There have been a couple of times where the Chiefs have gone berserk, or the Patriots when their dynastic days in a AFC championship where it hasn't been that close. There've also been some very good conference championship games as well. I'm not trying to take away from it, but I love the divisional round because it's Saturday, it's Sunday, it's 4 games, and usually you're going to get a real headliner game, and usually you're going to get an upset game. Something that you didn't see coming, a major one that happens. I don't want to say every year, but it seems to happen quite a bit. Obviously, I think the Packers beating the Cowboys last year is a game that sticks out, especially with the way that they just whooped the Cowboys up and down the field. So there's always something to really, really draw you in, and is more compelling than even normal on divisional round weekend. So look forward to a slate of games here. Now, the one thing that jumps out about this year's divisional round is that obviously all the home teams are favored, but if you're looking for that swing, that upset, that roundhouse right from an underdog, it's going to be, according to the odds makers, DraftKings is our partners here. It's going to be tough because you have 2 teams that are 8.5-point favorites, and then you have a team that's a 6-point favorite, which is far more than a pick 'em for a divisional round game. And then you got the one game, which I think has a chance to be the game of the year. I don't mean game of the postseason. I mean game of the year. And that's Ravens-Bills, of course, where that's the closest one. That's a game where it's less than 3. It's basically a pick 'em. Bills are getting a little bit of the home advantage. We'll talk about it. But that's the game to me, and that's why it's the Sunday 6 o'clock game. That is the cream of the crop game that everybody will be watching. I have a feeling that game is listen, it's not going to be the Super Bowl as far as how many people are watching it. Casuals and all that are not going to be watching Ravens Bills, but the true football junkie at 6 o'clock p.m. will be in their seat watching Ravens Bills, and I have a feeling that game will be everything that everybody wants it to be. The only thing, maybe it'll snow, and that'll just add to the intrigue of the game, because by itself, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, the Bills, the Ravens, the double-digit wins, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, by itself, right, is a great game. And both teams are very, very good. And both quarterbacks are just electric to watch. So it is going to be a fun game, a fascinating game, but it's the only game on the docket that the odds makers have said, hey, The Bills are not getting 3 points for being at home. So it's only one. So if you're if you're an Eagles fan and on Saturday you see home team Chiefs win and cover, home team Lions win and cover, and you know that there's always one upset, and Ravens Bills, no matter who wins, it's not going to be really considered an upset. You're going to be like, oh man, if you're into the superstitions, if you're into the law of averages and things like that, you kind of don't want both home teams to win going away, because the trend might say, well, then that means we're going to win going away. Or you look at it as like, man, how often does that happen in the 3 games where the home team was at least a 6-point favorite in each? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's a great slate of games. I'm excited about it. Just to put a bow on the wild card round, I did think that the Houston Texans would be one and done. They did have a huge win over the Chargers. Now, what I couldn't have expected was Justin Herbert throwing 4 interceptions. He played a bad game. He played a very bad game. And because of that, the Chargers were they were up 6-0. It was hard to believe. But once the Texans went and scored 23 unanswered points, it looked difficult there for the Chargers, as Justin Herbert did not play a good game. And I was worried about the Texans offense, of course, but whenever you get the ball, 4 extra times because the other quarterback gave it to you, it makes it a lot easier for your offense, especially when you're able to flip the field like that. The Texans won 32-12. It was nice to see CJ Stroud, who I still think is a very, very good quarterback, even though he has struggled this year, mainly because of the offense and the offensive line issues. But nice to see him come with a big performance, 282 yards. The Texans aren't nearly on paper first of all, they're not as prolific as they were offensively last year because of their offensive line problems. But they're also without 2 of their 3 receivers, right? No Tank Dell, he's hurt and out for the year. And of course, they lost Stephon Diggs as well. So they're really relying on Nico Collins and Joe Mixon to do the heavy lifting, and then on CJ Stroud to be a good ball distributor. And he was. You saw about 6 or 7 other guys not named Nico Collins catch the ball. The tight ends got involved in the game. The slot receivers got involved in the game. And the Texans, for at least 1 week, defied the odds, as far as a lot of people doubting them, myself included. And because they get rewarded for that win by then going to have to face the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday. The Ravens stayed hot against the Steelers. Steelers have a lot of problems. I said this last show. And by the way, I've been saying quite a bit on this show, going back to the Chargers-Texans game. I don't dislike Justin Herbert as a quarterback, and I definitely think there were times throughout the year in games the Chargers played that I watched where he had to carry the offense on its back. They tried to run the ball as best they could. They did not run the ball very well in the playoffs. They didn't run the ball as well later in the season as they did earlier in the year. Of course, J.K. Dobbins was hurt for a little bit in the middle of the year, but they also don't have a whole lot of playmakers, great weapons, receiving weapons. Ladd McConkey had a brilliant game against the Texans, and he is a promising young wide receiver for that offense. I think, McConkey catching passes from Herbert, it's going to be a thing for the next few years, at least for the Chargers. So there are times where Herbert had to carry that offense on his back. And, from that standpoint, he checks off the boxes. This is the thing about Herbert. The scouting term is body beautiful, great arm, fantastic athleticism, mobility, can make every throw, can run through you, can run around you. Yes, he is very, very talented, and I would not take that away from him. But there's something missing to his game when I've watched it that I don't have the same appreciation for it as I do some of the elite quarterbacks. And he went out and had a terrible game. There's no 2 ways around it. 14-32 passing is awful. 4 interceptions is awful. You can't deny that. I know the Texans have a good defense, and we'll talk about that in their matchup against the Chiefs. But, like other Chargers quarterbacks who came before Justin Herbert, if he is truly going to elevate into the elite, he's going to have to be a better playoff performer. And he took a step back with this performance against the Texans. The book on him is not closed. He's still a young quarterback. I would imagine that the Chargers, with a very good offensive line and a very good defense, um, they will look to upgrade their running game because Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman like to run and work off play action, and they will look to get him more of a downfield threat. He has definitely missed one. I know Quentin Johnson had 0 catches in the game against the Texans. He hasn't really been what they hoped he would be as a first round pick. McConkey can hit you in the intermediary levels. He can run really crisp and precise routes, but what they need is a guy who's going to take the top off the defense consistently. And I imagine the Chargers will be very active this offseason in either free agency or the draft or both to shore up to get that deep threat wide receiver and to give themselves a running game. As for the Steelers, listen, I talked about it last week. You couldn't find a team playing worse football going into the postseason than the Steelers. I mean, it didn't exist. They were just offensively dysfunctional. I'm watching Arthur Smith going and interview for head coaching jobs and wondering why. And their problems may not go away because their problems are largely quarterback related. And Russell Wilson played well for a couple of weeks and caught fire, and it was nice. And you saw the moon balls, and then they kind of went away. And Russell Wilson went back to being an average quarterback at best. And, when you're playing the Baltimore Ravens, you need way better quarterback and receiver play. And that's why they lost as miserably as they did. I definitely thought the Broncos would put up a better fight against Buffalo, but the one thing you got to remember about Buffalo that I didn't take into account is that they are virtually unbeatable when they are in Buffalo. They are a fantastic home team. They have a great home field advantage. Probably one of the few teams left that I say that their home field advantage, even facing an outdoor cold weather team like the Broncos, is just better. They are, on top of the fact that Josh Allen is a great quarterback, and on top of the fact that you get a play from your third down running back who catches a amazing throw from Josh Allen on fourth down, and Ty Johnson has to contort his body to make this unbelievable catch, and that puts him up 21-7. The game was over basically after that. The Broncos really couldn't get anything going. That's another team that really has to upgrade around its quarterback. They need more from their running game. They did not get a very good running game outside of Bo Nix scrambles. They need more than just Cortland Sutton, who I think is a very good wide receiver in the league, but need a little bit more. Marvin Mims didn't do much. They just need a little. Their defense is fine. They can add to it if they want to. The defense is very good. I know it gave up 31 points. I mean, Buffalo possessed the ball for 41 minutes of the game. All right. 41 minutes. Kind of hard to compete with that. So you could say the Broncos defense let down, or you could say, well, that's what happens when you're facing Josh Allen in Buffalo, because the Broncos aren't the only good defensive team to give up a lot of points to Buffalo. So Denver will have to go into the offseason, figure out a way that they can sustain their offense a little more, so take the pressure off of their defense. Packers-Eagles game, I mean, listen, we can say what we want about the Eagles pass game. The Packers pass game was worse. Jordan Love was bad. Part of that was the Eagles made him look bad. Part of that was Jordan Love made himself look bad, but they could not get any rhythm going offensively. And when the Eagles were able to get up 10-0 and then 16-3, the game was over. There was a shot there, it was 10-3, and the Packers moved the ball into the Eagles red zone. Dobbs got hurt. And what happened was Love threw 2 passes into the end zone. One to Malik Heath. He slipped, so it was incomplete. Then he threw another pass to the corner out to Bo Melton, off of his hands, incomplete. 3rd and 4th down. That was it. Then the Eagles come back, put a touchdown on the board to Goddard. 16-3, game over. Packers will have to work on their secondary, and they will have to work on – they have good receiving weapons, and obviously they didn't have Christian Watson. I feel like man, if they had one real go-getter at wide receiver, if they had an elite wide receiver, they'd be awfully tough to beat. But man, that was sort of the case during the Aaron Rodgers years. I mean, they did had Devontae Adams, but they picked him in the second round. It felt like they either did a great job of scouting and development of receivers, whether it was Jordy Nelson or a Greg Jennings, but they never picked guys in the first round. But part of that was because you were playing with Aaron Rodgers, and so part of the Green Bay offense will not only be to get better around Jordan Love, but Jordan Love himself needs to take a little bit of a step up and cut down on being a little bit erratic. He's a very good quarterback and he's very talented, but a little erratic. Tampa Bay. I mean, listen, I know Todd Bowles gets a lot of he gets crushed when they lose. He's not that good of a coach. Guess what? They lost 23-20. It wasn't their defense against a very hot Washington Commanders team that really fell through. It was the offense. They only scored 20 points. You score 20 points at home in a playoff game, you're not going to win. And it wasn't as if Mayfield played terrible. He didn't have any interceptions. He did have a fumble that was very, very costly and wound up giving Washington the ball and enabled them to go ahead. So, if you saw, Mayfield fumbled a lot. This is the thing that Tampa Bay has to work on in the offseason. Maybe continuing to beef up the O-line, getting him one more playmaker. Their running game was very good with Bucky Irving, with Rachaad White. So they were able to run the ball at times fairly well. Mike Evans is still looking like he's not slowing down with age. Jalen McMillan, the rookie, gave you something. K. Dotton gave you something. I don't know what Godwin's going to be like coming back. I would add one more playmaker, bolster the offensive line, and then really work with Mayfield on preventing fumbles because he is a fumbles machine. And if you're a fumbles machine, you're going to lose games in the playoffs if you don't protect the ball. And that's exactly what happened to the Bucs. And, on top of not being able to score their typical 28-34, the fumble by Mayfield really turned that game. And then, the game that I just listen, I thought the Vikings were going to beat the Rams. You could have told me the Rams were going to win, but by 18 points, 27-9. No, I would not have predicted that. I have to eat some crow here. I probably said for weeks on end that at some point we have to start doing the Sam Darnold thing with the Vikings. But Sam Darnold, I mean, how bad was Sam Darnold? You can't really understate. He was not very good. I get that he was under siege, but not all of that was on the Vikings offensive line. Some of that was on Sam Darnold. I mean, what was he sacked 9 times? I mean, whenever you're sacked that many times and you're a good team that won, like 14, 15 games, and you can't just blame the offensive line. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Vikings do with Sam Darnold in the offseason. I mean, if it were me, I would really have to see how J.J. McCarthy is in his comeback, but I would want to ride it one more year with Sam Darnold and sort of cough this up to or chalk it up to it's a bad game. He just played a terrible game. It shouldn't really drown out the fact that he played very, very well for most of the season. And then you hope next time you're in the playoffs, if you have him or if you are, that he can learn something from that and maybe you give him a little better answers. I think Kevin O'Connell probably could have done a better job giving Darnold some answers when you could see from the start that the Rams were really starting to tee off. I mean, I know that, they were up, 7-0, 10-0 first quarter. You could see from the start that the Rams were going to be teeing off on Sam Darnold. All right, the Saturday games. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is the key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. The lines are already up on DraftKings. The Eagles 4.5-point favorites against the Packers. Lines and odds are subject to change. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code BIRDSPREGAME. That's code BIRDSPREGAME, all one word, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. We have the Texans at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites. They've been off for a while. They might be rusty. I do believe you can be rusty when you're off that long. All right. They're going to play a team that has a very good defensive front. Really good pass rushers, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. They're stout up front, the Texans are. They have some good players on defense. So I can see the Texans giving the Chiefs an issue. It was a couple of years ago that the Chiefs were down, maybe their first Super Bowl, where, I think they were playing the Titans. The Titans had upset, I forget who was it, the Patriots or somebody in the AFC playoffs in the divisional round. Like I said, there's always some upsets. And then all of a sudden you see that the Titans are up 17-0 on the Chiefs. And then next thing you know, you blink, and not only have the Chiefs tied the game, but then they go up like 24-17, then 31-17. It was a crazy game. And that the Chiefs won after falling behind by a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs fell behind a little early in this game. But I don't know if Texans have the horses, and I'm not judging the Texans off 1 week and one playoff win over the Chargers. They were a disaster for the second half of the season and going into the playoffs. I don't think all of their ills have been cured by one playoff win, but I will say this. The Chiefs have had to move their all-pro left guard, Joe Thuney, to left tackle. He's played well there, but he's playing left tackle. I don't think he ever played left tackle before this year. That is a major, major move. They had signed DJ Humphries, the old Cardinal, to basically shore up that position when their rookie couldn't do it, when their backup, Wanya Morris, couldn't do it. They needed something better. They signed a veteran in DJ Humphries. Of course, he's an older guy. He pulls his hamstring. He's been out. And so they asked Thuney to move over to left tackle, and they're able to get by on that. But now you're asking this guy to play left tackle against the likes of Danielle Hunter, against the likes of Will Anderson. DeMeco Ryans a really smart defensive coordinator. He's a very good coach. He's going to attack the left side of the Chiefs line, but the Chiefs are going to know that they're going to do that. Patrick Mahomes is going to know they're going to do that. I think it's very vital that they get the quick game going. Travis Kelce is involved early. They wanted to save Travis Kelce. At the beginning of the year, he wasn't playing as many snaps as usual. They've made it to here. They've given him rest. He needs to go out and play a lot of snaps now. And the same thing with Xavier Worthy, the rookie, who started to finally kind of come on and get integrated toward the end of the year. They have to use his speed. They have to get him in space. They have to play quick game to avoid the pass rush. And you may have to see Patrick Mahomes run a little bit more. Now, he doesn't run like he used to. He certainly doesn't run like a Lamar or a Josh Allen. He runs more to create time and opportunity because he's phenomenal, maybe the best in the league at keeping his eyes down the field and making that short, intermediary, even some deep throws while he's on the run. And I think he's going to have to wind up doing that in this game. I can see the Chiefs keeping this thing close. The Texans keeping this thing close until the fourth quarter. I can see the fourth quarter belonging to the Chiefs, to Patrick Mahomes, to Chris Jones, who I think is going to wage an absolute assault on the interior of the Texans offensive line, which has not been very good all year. I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to come up with a plan to really hit the Texans where it hurts up front. And even if the Chiefs start slow, I expect them to be able to pull away in the second half of the game in the fourth quarter. I'd be very, very surprised if the Chiefs didn't win this game. The night game, Commanders at Lions. The Lions are 8.5-point favorites. This game I could see being closer. I could see it being closer because I think the Lions will have no issue scoring points. They haven't had issues scoring points against anybody. but their defense is still beat up. And the Commanders have played so well. And Jaden Daniels, as a rookie, has looked so poised and so polished that I actually believe he'll be able to go into Detroit, into that atmosphere, stay calm, stay collected, move the ball, find open receivers when they're there against the Lions defense that's not great. He'll probably be able to run, create plays with his legs. I can see the Commanders keeping this close. I just don't know what they're going to do to stop the Lions offense. If we go and talk about the Rams offense of the 99 2000 years, the greatest show on turf, I think the Lions are the greatest blur on turf. They are an entire blur offensively. They just move so fast, so quick, so razor sharp. And it really begins with their offensive line, which is probably the best offensive line in the sport. But Jahmyr Gibbs, who has taken on the workload without David Montgomery, looks like a Ferrari just weaving through traffic on the interstate. Vroom, 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 vroom. You know those guys who piss you off when you're driving and you see them in the Ferrari or the Lamborghini or the Porsche or whatever. Vroom, vroom. That's Jahmyr Gibbs. He is a blur. He is, if you give him some space, like the Lions offensive line gives him, he's tough to tackle. He's tough to catch. He has such big playability, and he can do it with the run, and he can do it in the passing game as well. And the same thing, Amon-Ra St. Brown moves so freely. He's like poetry in motion as a wide receiver. Catches everything. He's tough, runs great routes. And he and the receivers and Laporta, the tight end, and the running back, they're all in just perfect synchronization with the quarterback, Jared Goff. And there hasn't been a defense yet that I've seen, even in the game where Goff threw 5 interceptions, right? There hasn't been a defense yet that I have seen be able to just disrupt the beautiful timing that Goff has with all of his weapons. And I don't think the Commanders are going to be that team. I know they're hoping Marshawn Lattimore is going to be all right with the hamstring. Their linebackers are very good, Wagner and Luvu. It all starts up front for them. They have a good defensive front. I'm telling you, I don't think it matters. I believe the Lions will be able to score, and I don't want to say at will, but I think the Lions are going to be able to move the ball the way they want to against the Commanders, and they're going to put pressure on the Commanders and Jaden Daniels to keep coming at you and scoring and scoring. And guess what? I think the Commanders are up for that. I think the Commanders will be able to move the ball. The one thing that I would expect, though, is Aaron Glenn is going to tell his guys, look, we're going to give up yards. The quarterback's going to run. But when we get a chance to hit the quarterback, we got to hit the quarterback. And we're going to come after him. We're going to force him. Now, they're going to come after him in a disciplined manner because you know if you rush too far up the field, he's just going to run and slide, and you're not going to touch him. They're going to try to funnel their pass rush in a way to get him going one way and then have somebody come and hit him. I would expect Jaden Daniels to take some shots in this game because I know Aaron Glenn is smart enough to scheme up a way to get a few shots on Daniels. And he's going to get hit. And the guy has gotten hit all year, and he's gotten up, and he's made a play, but he hasn't faced a team like the Lions that's going to keep scoring and scoring and force you to score and score and score and score. It might be like the Eagles game that they played where they had to win 36-33, I think was the final score. So I can see this one being close. I think the Lions probably could be up by, 8 or 9 at some point in the game, but the Commanders to me are that sort of primed for a backdoor cover type of team. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think the Lions will win. Sunday, 3:00. Obviously, we'll get into that in the Inside the Birds pregame show. Myself, Adam, Greg Cosell. This game should be really fun, but also on top of that, it appears it's going to snow, so that's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about that. Snow games are always fun, so we will see how much that impacts the game. The Rams come in hot. I'd say this. I'd be a little concerned about the Rams' defensive front, which has been so good and just teed off on Sam Darnold. You can't pass rush against Jalen Hurts the way you pass rush against Sam Darnold. You cannot have guys like Jared Verse and Byron Young and anybody else just flying up the field trying to hit the quarterback, because you do that, you basically open up the door for Jalen Hurts to take a few steps up forward and run and cover a lot of ground in running. So I have a feeling that the Rams are going to have to play a different style against the Eagles than they did against the Vikings. And that may not cater to them. That may not be favorable for them, but don't underestimate them. Don't think this because they lost at home and Saquon Barkley ran all over them, that's going to be the case today. And remember that Matthew Stafford, he gets older every year. He gets wiser. He makes unbelievable throws. And I do think the Eagles will have to score some points here to win this game. But I think the Rams are going to have some difficulty stopping the Eagles offense. Eagles are 6-point favorites on DraftKings. And then the last game, Ravens at Bills. Listen, like I said, this is anybody's game. It's going to be probably the most exciting game of the year. By the time it's all said and done, I'd be shocked if it wasn't. I'd be shocked if one of these teams won by more than a possession. I think you're going to see a ton of splash plays. I think even if guys get hurt or can't play, that it's not going to matter because these quarterbacks can just make things happen. I know Flowers, missed the first game against the Steelers for the Ravens. He might play. You always want all the guys you can have, and Flowers is certainly a game changer. But honestly, in this game, I expect both of these quarterbacks to play really well. I don't think the Bills' defense is that great. I think the Ravens' defense has gotten a lot better. They made some personnel changes over the second half, their pass defense especially. But honestly, I don't think that's going to matter against Josh Allen. He'll run, he'll throw on the run. He'll create opportunities for his own running backs. And this thing could be like one of those tennis matches where you're like left, watching right. They're going to score. They're going to score. They're going to score. They're going to score. This thing might have the complexion of what we've seen from Bills Chiefs lately, which is, you got the ball in your hands last, your game. All right. You remember when the Bills played the Chiefs and beat them this year, it was because the Bills learned their lesson in the fourth quarter and said, you know what, we need to go for it on fourth down. I think the Bills were winning at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And it wasn't about a field goal. It wasn't about a punt. Sean McDermott said, we need to score. So they go for it on fourth down. And I believe Josh Allen ripped off a huge run and got into the end zone for a touchdown that basically won the game for the Bills. You're going to see a lot of fourth down, especially in the fourth quarter from these two teams. It's going to be a great game. I think they both match up really well. You can make a great argument for both teams. Whoever has the ball last is going to win. The unfortunate subplot is whoever loses the game, the quarterback, whether it's Lamar or whether it's Josh Allen, is going to be saddled with that, you just still can't get over the hump reputation. It's going to be another playoff loss for Lamar or another playoff loss for Josh Allen, which is unfortunate because I think that they're both going to play really well. And at the end of the day, it's just going to be about which team made the one or two more big plays to make a difference. So I'm excited for it. All right. Should be a great game. Last week, I did 3 picks. I went 1-2, so I'm 32-25. I lost on the Broncos covering the 8.5 that the Bills were laying. I lost bad on that one. I should have known better. I did win on the Eagles covering the 5.5-point favorites against the Packers, and then I picked the Vikings to win, to cover the 2.5. So obviously that didn't work either. So I went 1-2. 32-25 overall. For this episode, I'm just going to pick all 4 games. Why not? And see if I can reverse my fortune from the week before. Texans Chiefs. I like the Chiefs winning by the 8.5. Like I said, I think it'll be a close game, but I do think the fourth quarter, maybe even late third into the fourth quarter, will belong. The second half will belong to Kansas City. And I just don't think the Texans offensive line is going to have a whole lot of answers against the Chiefs pass rush. So I like the Chiefs covering the 8.5. Commanders at Lions. I like the Lions to win, but the Commanders to cover. I do think the Commanders, and listen, they might be down 14 and get a late touchdown, and then, you lose by 7, 6 if they go for 2, whatever it is. You can call it a backdoor cover if you want, but I like the Lions to win, but I think the Commanders will keep it closer than the 8.5. Eagles, Rams. I've gone back and forth on this. I don't know how the weather, who it's going to impact more or less. Everybody wants to say the Rams will be impacted more because they're a warm weather team, an indoor team. I mean, I've seen the Tampa Bay Bucks come into Philadelphia and win a huge playoff game. We all remember that game. All right. Seen the New Orleans Saints in 2013 come up and beat Chip Kelly and Nick Foles in his first year, uh, and it was pretty cold that day in Philadelphia. So I think sometimes a little too much is made of the cold weather. Now, if the snow, it might be if it's windy, if it's gusty, you obviously favor the Eagles there because that's the better running game. But I don't know. It sounds like the forecast is snow, but not, terrible gusty winds or really, really inclement type of snow, just snow. So I don't know how much it's going to impact the game, but I am going to pick the Eagles here to cover the 6 in that. And Ravens, Bills, man, I go back and forth with this one. At the end of the day, I'm just going to go on the Bills' track record of winning at home in the playoffs under Josh Allen. It doesn't mean I think that they're better than the Ravens. I don't know if the Ravens are better than Bill. I don't know who's better. I think they're both great teams. Whoever wins this game, I give them a very good shot to go to the Super Bowl. I think they can either dethrone Kansas City and certainly can beat Houston. I don't care what happened in the regular season. So whoever wins this game, I think it's a really good shot to get to the Super Bowl. I'm going to go with the Bills. I'll have them cover the 1.5 because I figure whoever wins this game is going to win by 3. Last second field goal, something like that. So I'll take the Bills, and we'll see what goes on after that. Last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is I want to address what I think is one of the biggest misconceptions in the whole head coaching interview cycle here. I've seen a lot of Eagles fans upset that Kellen Moore is taking 3 interviews and he'll be distracted and not be able to, you go back to Jonathan Gannon and look how distracted he was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago when they lost to the Chiefs. Guys, no, I don't think everybody really understands how it works in playoff preparation and how much playoff preparation is similar to regular season preparation. Okay, Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator. His number one job is coming up with the game plan to beat the opponent. And he doesn't just sit there and come up with the game plan himself. That's done in a meeting with his run game coordinator, his pass game coordinator. He's got offensive coaches on his staff. Some of them are in charge of first down or third down. Some are in charge of the red zone. And it really starts at the beginning of the week with your normal week, which begins Wednesday in practice for a Sunday game. For all the people who say, oh, how can you give time away and not spend every waking moment preparing for the playoffs? Well, tell me why you don't practice on Monday and Tuesday. All right. I know you play on Sunday. You definitely need Monday off for rest. Okay. Well, why aren't they out there on Tuesday then? Why aren't they in the building on Tuesday all day long going over? Because that's not the routine that NFL teams go by in the regular season. And if you know any NFL head coach, the one thing an NFL coach wants to do is keep everything the same, whether it's college, whether it's NFL. These people are so driven by routine. They keep everything the same. That's how they don't make a playoff game seem bigger than a week 7 game. All right. So they get together Wednesday. Now, by Wednesday, someone like Kellen Moore or Vic Fangio, offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, head coach, by Wednesday, they've watched the tape of the opponent and they've come up in their mind with a bunch of ideas on what they want to do against that opponent based on what they've seen on tape. So they got a bunch of different plays. They have a bunch of different concepts, and it's, it's a huge thing that they want. That we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to try this. We think this is going to work. We think that's going to work. And then they have practice all week and they see what works and they see what doesn't work. And then they talk to their quarterback, right? And they see what he likes and what he doesn't like and what he thinks is going to be good. And then they watch a little more tape and throughout the week. Okay. The game plan is not actually hatched for the game until the last, like the Friday or the Saturday. And then, you may hear some old school coaches say, yeah, what we did was Friday night or maybe even Saturday night, depending on when the game is, we all get together, we light up some cigars, we pour some bourbon, and then we go and start to attack the game plan. We start to put together the first 15 and exactly what we're going to do. This is the schedule that NFL teams follow and coaches follow. You can ask any coach, coordinator in the league. That's how it goes. So the idea that Kellen Moore on a Wednesday night, when he gets home from practice, isn't doing his job because he did not, because he spent 3 hours on a Zoom call with another team is ludicrous. What is he? He's a human being. NFL coaches and assistants are humans. They have wives, they have kids, they have family members, they have loved ones that they go home to and they see. They have dinner that they eat. All right. I know that people know the stories of coaches who sleep in their office and burn the candle at both ends. Yes, that does happen too. But even those guys, they sleep at the office. They're spending time sleeping. It's not like they're just sitting there pulling all-nighters, drinking coffee, thinking about the thousands and thousands of plays they think that they can run against the opponent. If Kellen Moore or anybody is interviewing with a team on a Wednesday, on a Tuesday, on a Thursday, right, whatever, for a few hours in the evening, that's fine. It is not taking away from the overall focus or preparation. Are these guys distracted? Maybe. I can't get into every single head coach's mind and wonder if he is or isn't thinking about that head coaching job while he's coaching. That's a part of it. And I get that the optics on that are bad. You want to argue me on distraction? Okay, I can understand that a little bit. You telling me Jonathan Gannon was distracted by the Arizona job while he was coaching the Eagles? No. How about the fact that he was facing a team that was about to become a two-in-a-row champion and potential three-peat champion, right? I mean, the Chiefs were pretty good in the second half, not because Jonathan Gannon was distracted, but maybe more because they have Patrick Mahomes. And the Eagles, even under Jonathan Gannon that year, struggled all year long with motion and misdirection and on special teams. And they allowed a huge special teams punt return to set up a touchdown in that game. I mean, if these guys are so distracted, how did the Patriots win 6 championships under Belichick and Brady when guys like Romeo Crennel and Charlie Weiss and Matt Patricia and Brian Flores and Josh McDaniels were interviewing for jobs? Oh, hey, Shane Steichen got a job. He was interviewing for jobs. How did that happen? He apparently wasn't distracted because his offense held up its end of the bargain 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. So please, now that I've laid out what the week of preparation is like, please understand that distraction is inevitable. It could happen. But the idea that these guys are losing preparation time by doing Zoom interviews is absurd. If anything, they're losing personal time. So you should feel sorry for them. They probably get home one night, kiss their wife, kiss their kids, and say, sorry, got to go upstairs and do a couple hours on a Zoom with the New Orleans Saints. Now, that is where the time is lost. It is not. I feel for diehard fans because I feel sometimes that the diehard fans just care and obsess and think about the team actually more than the players, the coaches, and the front office do. Those guys are human beings. They have personal lives. They have some time throughout the week, even in the playoffs, to decompress, reset, and do something with their wife, kids. They have time to go home. That is the time at home that Kellen Moore loses out on. Not preparing for the opponent, not coming up with a game plan. I promise you this. And by the way, this has been going on for years and years and years. Okay. So like I said, the Patriots had plenty of their coordinators and coaches interviewing for jobs, and they won a lot of Super Bowls, and same thing with the Chiefs. So if I could leave you with that and you learn something and you feel a little bit better, I hope, because it truly, truly is my opinion, the biggest misconception in sports, that these interviews take away preparation time for playoff games. I get that the optics look bad. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying it. But what I'm telling you is it's not as bad from a preparation standpoint as you might think. Enjoy the football, everybody. Should be a great weekend. Take care.